Sean Payton just shook up all of our off-season predictions by throwing a bucket of cold water on our mock drafts, totally changing what we thought was going to happen. But honestly, I think this could be a good thing. Or it could just be Sean Payton's way of keeping us on our toes, making sure we don't get too comfortable with our guesses. We'll dive into that more. Today, we also heard some fantastic updates from our GM, head coach, and ownership during their postseason press conferences, and we're going to break all of that down for you. If you're new to the channel, I'm Ben, a die-hard Broncos fan. It would really help me out if you like and subscribe, especially if you're all about the Broncos. Now, for the past several weeks, all we've heard is that the Broncos need to get a reliable running back, someone they can count on as a true bell cow. You can't have a rookie trying to do it all on his own, like we saw in that Buffalo game where he was our top rusher. That's just not sustainable. Everyone was expecting the Broncos to go after someone like Ashton Jeanty, who's been making waves and could have easily won the Heisman. But honestly, we know the real Heisman winner should have been Travis Hunter, thanks to what Coach Prime is doing over there. For a while, everyone was talking about the Broncos trying to grab Ashton Jeanty. Even the New York Times was saying it, and former Broncos running back Philip Lindsay compared him to the legendary Emmitt Smith. That's high praise. Lindsay basically said, "This guy could be one of the best to ever do it." But then, in his postseason press conference, Sean Payton threw a curveball. He made it clear that he doesn't believe the key to winning in the NFL today is to have a single bell cow running back. Payton doesn't see the role of one guy handling the bulk of the carries as that important anymore. Instead, he's all about a running back by committee approach. When you take a closer look at Payton's coaching history, it makes sense. He's considered one of the brightest offensive minds in the game. Don't just take my word for it. Look at what other coaches and experts say about him. They praise his ability to scheme and manage an offense. Over his 16 years with the Saints and his 2 years here with the Broncos, Payton's offense has only had a runner break 1,000 yards 3 times. So out of 18 seasons, having a running back take most of the carries just isn't how Payton envisions winning. If you look at the teams still in the playoffs, you'll notice that most of them don't rely on a single bell cow running back. Outside of teams like the Giants with Saquon Barkley and Baltimore with their strong backfield, most successful teams are using a more balanced approach. And honestly, I love that Sean Payton has proven he can win Super Bowls without relying on a star running back to carry the load. During his time with the Saints, Payton has had running backs like Deuce McAllister and Mark Ingram step up, but even someone as talented as Reggie Bush never took on that bell cow role. Payton's success comes from finding ways to work within his system, like the Chiefs with their quick passing game and Patrick Mahomes spreading the ball. Or look at what Dan Campbell's doing in Detroit with a strong 2-back system, using guys like Gibson and Montgomery together. That's the kind of system Payton wants, a shared load. So don't get caught up in the hype about Payton wanting to grab Ashton Jeanty. He's known for thinking several steps ahead. Sometimes Sean Payton plays chess while everyone else is stuck playing checkers. Could it be that he genuinely likes Jeanty but is using the idea of needing a bell cow back to throw everyone off? That wouldn't be surprising at all. So if you're hoping the Broncos are going to trade up to grab Ashton Jeanty, it's probably not going to happen. No need to waste the energy there. Instead, what we did hear from Sean Payton is how much he values the joker position. This is something we've been speculating about for a while. Could Greg Dulcich be the joker we've been waiting for? Well, it looks like that's not in the cards since he's no longer with the team. But Payton mentioned there might be some players already on the roster who could step into that joker role. One name that's gaining attention around Denver is Thomas Yasmin, the former rugby player from the University of Utah. While there's some excitement around him, I think the more likely move for the Broncos is to target a top-tier tight end. When you look at all the great tight ends Sean Payton has coached, from Dan Campbell to Jimmy Graham, it's clear he knows how to work with talented tight ends. So, if I'm predicting what Payton is going to do with that first draft pick, I'm leaning toward a tight end. The joker position and the ability to set up the run game are key for Payton, and adding a strong tight end could be exactly what the Broncos need to unlock their run game. In his press conference, Sean Payton didn't hold back about how difficult coaching Russell Wilson was last season. Honestly, it's kind of impressive to hear him be so upfront about it. Then you look at someone like Bo Nix, who came out and praised Payton for never throwing him under the bus, and you can't help but notice the stark difference. With Russell Wilson, it felt like Payton was always putting him in a tough spot, which is a pretty big contrast. Payton really let loose today, sharing just how miserable the end of last season was. And honestly, as a Broncos fan, that feels good to hear. We all lived through that misery too. Losing to the New England Patriots on Christmas Eve pretty much ruined my holiday, so I'm right there with him. What I love about Payton is that he's always honest and says exactly what he's thinking. He's not afraid to speak his mind, even when it's tough. Sure, he might throw us off the scent like he did with Genty, but when he says something, he means it. When he said he's keeping 2 birds open for the doubters, he meant it. When he said the next time he wins 7 games, it'll be the first time, he meant it. When he said the Broncos will win the division next year, he meant it. And when he said last season was miserable, he really meant it. We're definitely in a better place now than we were at this time last year, and man, last season felt like nothing but misery, sorrow, and drudgery. It was brutal. So if last year was drudgery, what's next? Right now, it feels like pure excitement and hope for the future. We've got the coach and the quarterback, a combination that literally every other team in the league would kill for. But there's more to it than just that. What truly sets us apart is the ownership and GM group we have in place. Take a look at someone like Ben Johnson, who could have chosen to work with a once-in-a-generation talent like Caleb Williams in Chicago. But instead, he decided to interview with the Vegas Raiders. Why? Because he didn't want anything to do with the mess of ownership and GM issues in Chicago. That just shows how lucky we are to have the pieces in place here. Our GM has this incredible ability to find talent where others might not look. A perfect example of this is Quinn Miners, who's now considered one of the best guards in football. When he was drafted, all we had were videos of him blocking trees at Whitewater, and he couldn't even stand in a proper stance. Fast forward, and now he's an all-pro. That's credit to our ability to find and develop talent. And with David Schotter now on board, we're in an even better position to keep finding great players. On top of that, we're sitting on a ton of cap space, one of the top 10 amounts in the league. This gives us the chance to make a big move if the right player is available. Both the Penner Group and George Payton have hinted at this, saying they could go out and make a splash, or they could play it smart and be measured with their spending. We're in the top 10 for cap space, have the 3rd youngest team in the league, and already made the playoffs. On top of all that, we've got a rookie quarterback who's only going to improve, and 2 of his best targets were rookies as well. Things are looking bright for the future. The future is looking incredibly bright for the Denver Broncos, especially with young players like Devin V and Marvin Mims, who are only going to get better. That's something to be really excited about. And what's even more thrilling is that this team isn't just aiming to make the playoffs. They're focused on winning the division. They're staking their claim, and that level of ambition is exactly what we want to hear. I also love how involved our ownership group is. They're not sitting in an ivory tower somewhere. We've seen them lead players into club dub after wins, and they're right there with the team, celebrating. Sean Payton even brings the sound system and fog machine to make it feel like a real party. Compare that to other teams where the owner might never even show up, watching games from a distance on YouTube TV. It's amazing to see how present our ownership is and how they're fully invested in giving this team what it needs to succeed. Another huge win for this team is the work our training staff has done. Under the previous coaching staff, we were one of the most injured teams in the NFL. In fact, we were the most injured team. But now, under Payton's leadership, things have completely changed. For 2 years in a row, our team has been among the healthiest in the league. Last year, we were the healthiest, and this year we were second. With Payton continuing to bring in top-tier talent and our training staff keeping everyone in peak condition, the future is looking even brighter. It's an incredibly exciting time to be a Denver Broncos fan. The future is so bright, we might need to wear shades. Thanks for riding with me. We've got so much to look forward to, and I can't wait to see what's next.